Bitcoin is a complex system, the way it is today. It combines the sort of mimetic aspects of religion with the utility of money. So it's in a unique position. What that means, though, is there is a tendency to use the religion aspect. There is a tendency of folks to take on a little bit of a messianic a belief that something's coming, something imminent is coming, right? And so the narrative as to what that imminent thing would be, there's a few folks on Twitter, I'm sure you know, who love to say that they just got off the phone with XYZ and that there's imminent capital inflow. You know exactly the kind of post I'm talking about. That tactic is fraught, in my opinion, because the ETFs did come to pass. A pro crypto administration did come to pass, but rapture didn't happen. we didn't ascend into the Bitcoin standard, ex post as soon as we got these things. Yep. And to me, trying to keep my head in an irrational world, that's okay. I mean, it's not. I wish it were that simple. I wish, if ETF, then adoption. Yes, in the variable, but it's a multivariate system, right? So yes, there's a BlackRock ETF. That means BlackRock is in part now wedded to Bitcoin adoption because they get fees from the ETF. So Bitcoin itself is being evangelized by BlackRock. I mean, that is tremendous. But that wasn't the silver bullet to get from a $2 trillion asset to a $20 trillion asset, or gold closer to a $30 trillion asset. It's going to take more than a couple of ETFs, right? This is going to be a concerted all-front effort. It's going to be central banks putting it in the vault. It's going to be some companies putting it on the balance sheet. It's going to be miners mining. It's going to be folks transacting. There is a lot of things you do. Now, gold had a 10 to 60,000 year head start. So it's going to take a little bit of time. I don't think it's going to take that much time, but at the same time, I do try and steer away from the imminent rapture narrative that I think can sometimes take over the industry, because I do see that it results in disappointment. I think price action is directionally going the way you want to go. If you look over a 3-year average, 4-year average, hell, even a 1-year average on the given day, if you tie your beliefs to a single catalyst, and that catalyst actually happens, but you move the goalpost to worldwide Bitcoin adoption based off of an ETF, for example. Well, then you're going to be disappointed by the good news, and then that's a bit of a bummer.
Yeah, it's a way to drive yourself insane too.
Yeah,
so that's well said. What are your thoughts just on AI? Obviously, quantum's been a big thing recently. Is that especially as a miner, as a node runner, as a miner, all these things that uphold the system. Obviously, I would love your thoughts just on some of these things that are coming down the pike. I mean, whether they're in the next 6 months or year, or the next 10 years, 20 years, like they're coming. So would love your just broad brush thoughts on what's coming.
Yeah. Quantum's funny, funny in an interesting way, not funny in a hilarious way. Quantum to me is funny because it is either imminent, or it is 6 years away, or it is 16 years away, and your mileage may vary, and it seems somewhat tied to how much venture capital you need to raise. But look, I speak to a lot of folks. I'm a nerd about the technology, compute in general, whether it's Bitcoin or HPC or quantum. So I speak to folks that are engineers, that are more involved with quantum day to day in its many research forms. And I think, to your earlier point about game theory, it is helpful to map out what the game theory is going to be on Bitcoin and quantum. If quantum were to happen tomorrow, you could try and be predictive a bit about knowing what you know about the system, knowing what you know about people, what will happen. I've written about this as well on X. I put a post out about some of the game theory because it's a topic I love on Bitcoin and quantum. It's not something that keeps me up at night, but it is something that I keep in view. You've seen a few solutions. I've been DM'd lists of solutions for things that can be done to get Bitcoin ready for a post-quantum world. I think it's good that these preparations are being made, but in many ways, because Bitcoin is so decentralized, it is almost like a government. In that sense, like a democracy, right? It's a lot of people voting for the network, or maybe more of a republic, because you have to be validating blocks. But the issue that you have with this form of government is that there's an old joke that government is really good at doing two things, which is nothing and overreacting. And so when it comes to quantum, it is probable that there will be some headway, but there will not be a sufficient headway before Q day, and then immediately Q day plus one, there is overreaction, and there are 10 different solutions all being proposed at the same time, and some subset of them will happen, and the supply of Bitcoin may go from 21 million to 15 million or whatever percentage can be protected. That's all possible, but to me that actually doesn't really hurt the value prop of Bitcoin, because I'm confident that in a post, is assuming quantum comes to pass the way it's predicted, a post-quantum world would still have a place for Bitcoin in it as a belief system. And what I mean by that is a very conservative, decentralized, fixed supply emissions token. Like you don't actually need SHA-256 to survive in a perpetuity, which is the encryption schema that Bitcoin uses. You don't need that to be true for Bitcoin to be true. That is my belief. I think Bitcoin at this point has somewhat begun to almost transcend some of those initial encryption modalities. I think they're still critical. I don't want Bitcoin to be hacked. I don't want the integrity of Bitcoin to be attacked. But I believe that Bitcoin as a belief system is more resistant to these sorts of attacks than it would be if I was viewing this as like a bank's email system or whatever. Like the confidence of the US dollar in a world in which people can hack and print infinite dollar, that to me is much more problematic than Bitcoin, so long as sufficient amount of folks can coordinate around what a post-quantum Bitcoin should look like.
Yeah, and I agree. I feel like it's more along the lines of the toothpaste is out of the tube, right? Like once you discovered fire, and it's going to reshape, adapt. It's going to be something forever, whether it looks like just like today or it's different 10 years, whatever. So I couldn't agree more. What do you
this actually on that note, it's very interesting. This is where we're American Bitcoin, so I got to plug the founding fathers, of course. This is where I think the United States was prescient, because things like the First Amendment, freedom of speech, or things like the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, in a world where communications can happen via satellite and you effectively have uncensorable internet, or at least very hard to censor the internet, and we're headed that direction, whether it's through Starlink or some of the rivals, there will be multiple satellite. It'll be very hard for a medium power country to truly censor its citizens. And so suddenly there's again, preference cascade. The emperor has no clothes. It's very hard to censor people. And so if your society hasn't had microdoses of freedom of speech, it could find itself very susceptible to disruption. Whereas I think in the United States is almost always running a low-grade fever, and is thus very resistant to getting fully taken over by the woke mind virus, or pick your belief system, ideology, meme of choice. The United States, because it's had this freedom of speech for centuries now, it has a resiliency there. And with the Second Amendment, now the issue is 3D printing guns. And what are we going to do about that? Well, in the United States, you can just go buy it. So we've had to learn to build a system that is resilient to these technologies. And so I view the United States having a pro-crypto administration as we do right now. It's actually no different. The United States is going to have to build, and is already building, a system that is resilient to an alternative currency like Bitcoin. Whereas there are other countries where their solution is going to be to freeze the currency pegs and act in denial and basically try to put their finger to prevent the dam from breaking. But I think those founding fathers were right. You need to build your system with resiliency from day one.
If you like that clip, then you definitely got to check out this next spicy clip. I think you're really going to like it. Come on, check it out. But if you want the full version, the full interview, then check that out over here. Come on, do it. I'll see you in there.